to the question very carefully. Then I will share a question, and then you will share your answer in the chat. And then the winner of this will have a chance to win 100 bob airtime. So just to make sure that you're psyched for this, just reply with some emoji in the chat, just to know whether we are ready for this. Yeah, so, and with that, have your chat ready, Opondo. Okay. Okay, let's see whether you're going to win this. Who else is on the call? Okay, I can see, yeah, some reactions coming up. Otieno, Akinyi, okay. Sawa. At least I know we are able to type. So just be on your chat, Francis. Thank you. Yeah, so here is a chance for you to win 100 bob airtime in the preferred network of your choice. Now we have had, okay, so listen to the instructions very carefully. I'm going to ask a question, and this question has two parts. So you are supposed to give these answers in the same text. So like, don't answer the first question or the first part of the question and send. So you need to send both. And the winner will be the person who will accurately give the answer and the fastest to do so. Okay. For those joining us, we are doing 100 bob airtime challenge. And for this, the instructions are very simple. So I'm going to ask the question. And I want you to type the answer in the chat, and they should be both, like, give the answers to both types, to the both parts of the question. So here's the question. We have had 2 sessions so far. Can you type who facilitated both sessions, the full name, and the topic that they facilitated? Let me come again. The who did the sessions in order, the first one and the second one, and what were the topics. The first person to write that accurately, you're going to win 100 bob airtime. Okay, let's go. Who gets this? Okay. See, not yet. For those joining us, you're welcome. I hope we got the instructions very well. Both parts of the question, for the first and the second question, and the topics, they need to be in the same text. Okay, let us see who is the winner. Okay. So as we wait for that, I will be introducing our speaker. Not yet. I'm yet to get what I'm looking for. Okay. I think we're almost there. Okay, so I will be announcing the winner while we'll be towards the end of the session. Yeah, and the winner will walk away with his or her 100 bob airtime. Okay, so today's session, it's on conflict resolution in marriage and in courtship. I believe a number of us have had the opportunity to get to see this. So our speaker today is Peter Kimeu, popularly known as PK. I'm sure a number of us know him. He is currently the Director Corporate Communication at Focus Kenya. He will be dealing with this topic, conflict resolution and forgiveness in courtship. Now, one thing I remember that PK once taught us, he was handling a session on communication. He was telling us that you cannot not communicate. So even in silence, you're communicating. The encouragement there was to make sure that you pass across the nice message, because even failure to communicate is actually communicating. Maybe he would touch a bit on that. Yeah, so I can see that he's already joined the call. PK, you're welcome, yeah, to start this session. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Peter. It's good to be here. I am sure I'm speaking to quite a number of people that we have met before in JKUAT, but it's exciting to be back, and I am looking forward to having a great session. Peter, the question that you have really asked, I wonder why you give that present to that person. I thought you would have asked an application question from what they learned, because I know they have gone back to the posters to see the to see the topics and the speakers that were handled. So resume our recording so that now I can share the slides for the presentation. So I am tempted to just check briefly what you have posted to know whether my presentation is going to be in vain or you'll be able to remember something. So I can see people have managed to remember the name of the facilitator and the topic, but it would have been nice to just hear what you're getting from those sessions so far. So if you can also type, I'm sure Peter has already picked the winner for the airtime, but if you can just type what has stood out for you in those past two sessions, I think it would be helpful for me to appreciate as we look at today's presentation. So I would appreciate, I think I can log in into a different machine so that I can be able to see your comments. So let me see whether there's anyone who has said anything apart from just mentioning the speaker. So that's our topic today, conflict resolution and forgiveness in courtship. So we will look at three things among many other things: sources of conflict in our courtship, ways of seeking reconciliation while in a conflict, and some of the biblical principles in resolving conflicts in a healthy manner. Let me begin by saying that there will always be conflict among people. The fact that we stay together, the fact that we share things, the fact that we talk to each other, it means there will always be conflicts. Sometimes it will be conflict about information. You've received information that is conflicting, or you share information that is conflicting from your partner, or your values conflicts, interest conflicts, relationship conflicts, structural conflicts, and all this manner of conflicts. So the fact that you want to get into a relationship, you are actually signing up for a conflict resolution class, because apart from the excitement that usually comes when she said yes, you normally begin conflict from the first day. You may not notice it because there's usually that kind of excitement that overshadows the pain of conflict. But I can assure you that the moment you get yourself into a relationship, leave alone about a love relationship, any relationship, there will be conflicts. There will be moments where you are so happy. There are moments that will be solo. And so I needed to begin by saying that you cannot avoid conflict. In fact, if you are in a relationship that has been sailing smoothly, I'm not a prophet of doom, but I suspect such people are the ones that find themselves into a situation and everyone is wondering, how did you get yourself into such a, I mean, you've been an example to everyone and all of a sudden you hear that so and so broke up and you're wondering what happened. Sometimes it's because those people assumed the conflicts that they had, or they pretended, or there was just something that was not right. So if you've been relating, and I believe most of you are here should be because you've come for that reason, or you are an aspirant. But whichever state that you are in terms of relationships, just know that you will have conflicts. The moment you say yes to someone, the moment you approach someone for a relationship, just be prepared for conflicts. So the first question or the first objective for this session was to identify some of the sources of conflicts that we have. And because I like research, I like just taking surveys, I posted this poster on my status and asked people to let me know why they think or where they think are sources of conflicts in love relationships. And I received a number of responses, which I have analyzed, and I am about to present the results to you. So I co-created content with all my fans on WhatsApp. So what I'm about to present is not my ideas. I have actually not added anything, but I've just analyzed the data that I received. When I analyzed the data, I realized that the sources of conflict could actually be categorized into two categories. There's what I call the internal sources, and these would be conflicts that are partly caused by the individuals. People are responsible for those conflicts. But then the second one is the external sources. And the external sources is what I classified as the conflicts that are partly beyond the person. Like, you are not necessarily the cause, but there are things that are without you that are causing those conflicts. So let me share the data that I received. The internal conflicts, the greatest, according to this survey from my audience base, is that the greatest source of conflict in love relationships or in courtship have to do with communication or misunderstanding. So any statement that showed that there is lack of good communication or people misunderstood each other, I classified them to communication and misunderstanding, and they are accounted for over 40%. So if you are relating, if you are in a love relationship, you are likely to have your conflicts result from your failure to communicate or misunderstanding that is caused by that communication, I believe. And secondly, is the source from unmet or unrealistic expectations. And these are accounted for about 20%. Then there were assumptions, which are close. Yeah. Thank you for that. I believe, Peter, you've managed to mute everyone and not giving them the opportunity to unmute so that we don't get disturbed. Thank you. Thank you for that response. So I was saying that the third source of conflict would be on assumptions. Then the rest shared equal percentages, less than 10%, that is offering differing goals and dreams, challenges in boundaries. Some people say that when you do not respect boundaries or you don't set those boundaries, then others say that kuna feature game where you do not reveal who you are. When you look at these internal sources of conflict, you realize that the greatest challenge is communication. And Peter, as you've rightly said, that you cannot not communicate, just meaning that you are always communicating. And sometimes you communicate in a way that you create misunderstanding. Sometimes you leave out information and therefore you leave people to assume or to fill in the gaps. But there's the issue of unmet and unrealistic expectations. Every person who is dating, they always think that their relationship is special. It's different from every other relationship. And therefore, for them, they are going to sail through without experiencing these small problems that unbelievers or people who do not trust God experience. And some of people come with unrealistic expectations. There are some men, for example, who get into a relationship and all they have read in scripture, all they see in scripture is that wives should submit to their husbands. Their reading of the Bible stops at that. And so when they are getting into that relationship, their expectation is that their girlfriend is going to be a yes person. They're not going to raise any voice. They're not going to disagree. And so they are expecting that whatever I say, because wife should submit, no one should object to what I am saying. That is an unrealistic expectation. Or you expected that because you have seen in the movies that people in love, they stroll along the beach, holding hands, looking at the sunset. And so all that you've desired in a relationship is that stroll on the beach. Even if you come from Mount Kenya where there is no beach or any lake, you have that picture in your mind, and that is what you look forward to. And so you get into this relationship 1 year down the line, leave alone about strolling on the beach, you actually have not strolled together anywhere. And so that is unmet expectation and you begin conflict. But sometimes it's an issue of power and control, selfishness. Selfishness actually also came in as an issue. Criticism. There's one person who said that a relationship where your partner is always criticizing what you do. And they said it's annoying. Lack of communication, high expectations, and all that. But among the people who wrote longer sentences, one of them said that some of the sources, and I classified this to be part of the internal sources of conflicts, that very small things like getting late in a date or impulse buying on the streets or eating muturas and miwa on the road can cause conflicts. I didn't know that. I actually made a follow-up question to ask, is the problem not eating muturas and miwa or eating them? And I didn't know that this can be a source of conflict. People, I mean, for you, you cannot imagine, or it is the girl who is addicted to mutura. And therefore, anytime you are coming from church, they must stop somewhere to eat mutura. And that becomes a source of conflict. And miwa, surely, what is the problem with miwa? But the fact that someone thinks that that can be a source of, I mean, their point was just small things that you can assume, things that you may think that it's not a big deal, can actually be a source of conflict. But there is the issue of feature rangi. This person says that fakeness, and this is where you pretend. You you pose to be who you are not. You know, when you meet for the first time, you had applied this kind of makeup and you have consistently done that. But now, because you are already have achieved whatever you wanted, you relax. And one time you meet with your boyfriend and they're wondering, why is my girlfriend getting late? Because they can't see the girlfriend anywhere. Maybe the girlfriend has just arrived, just that they have never seen them without makeup. Or you are always pretending to be okay. You know, when you go for a date and you are asked to ask for a meal, you are always asking for light meals at the beginning or before you get into the box. And now when you get into the box and you have settled, people wonder whether this is the same person. When you go into that same hotel, you are asking for food and you're thinking, are you ordering for food for other people who are coming, or it's just for yourself? You know, because you are not real, or you have not been real in your relationship. But the external sources, what I classified as external sources, these ones I will try to take some time in them, because as I mentioned, these are sources that are beyond you. They are not necessary. Even though you have some level of control, it is beyond what you can, or you are not necessarily the initiator. The issue of personality differences. And the person said, this is very pregnant. He said that they meant that it's a big issue, personality differences. But you know, for some reasons, it could be that that personality difference is actually what attracted you to each other. When you look around, you realize that most of times, extroverts will marry introverts. And I think it's for obvious reasons. When you are two extroverts in a family, sometimes you may have the challenge of who is going to listen to you, because you see extroverts, they think on their feet. They talk and then later on begin thinking about what they were saying. So that could be a source of conflict, but most of times that personality difference is actually what attracts you to each other. When you look around, or when you look at your relationship, you realize there are some areas where what attracted you to the person that you're dating or you're in courtship with, is actually totally different of who you are. For example, my wife is introverted and I'm extroverted. Even though as time goes by, you sort of get a middle ground. I have become a little introverted, and I think she has become more extroverted, for those who know the two of us. But the things that we like most can also be the very things that we resent most. And probably that is where now the issue of personality differences arises when it comes to conflicts. That what you liked most about that person, you like the fact that they crack jokes, they make you laugh, they are fun to be around. But when you have begun conflicting, you resent that humor. You resent those things that you actually liked about them. It's natural, it's normal. So if you are at the point where you are not liking what you liked about your partner, just know that it's normal. What you like most can actually become what you finally resent. But then there's the second issue that was raised, which is indifferences from our past. Things like dysfunctionality of our families of origin, abuse, and trauma. You know, these things that I'm sharing, they are not new. The only thing that might be new are the illustrations and the examples that I'm going to give, and I will majorly use examples about myself. My wife our families are totally different. First of all, we do not belong to the same ethnic group. I am a Kamba. She is a Kisii Kalenjin. So that already speaks a lot. She comes with two cultural backgrounds, and I come from a totally different ethnic background. When you cross Rift Valley, the people on this other side, there are so many things that are so different from each other, starting from food. One time when we were dating, she visited me, and I prepared some githeri. I prepared githeri. For those of you who know zo is peace. It's one of the delicacies in my community. And when she ate that githeri, she was like, she didn't like it. And I can tell you, I was disappointed. I mean, who doesn't like zo, surely? For some of you have never tested, so just give it a try. You realize that you really can't, you must like it. But she didn't like it. It is because it was the first time she was testing it. These days, she's a fan of them. When I went to their home during the dower payment, I was given what they call mursik. It was bitter milk. I have never tested something. I mean, I wondered, how can you give me such? It doesn't have sugar. It is not smooth. It's, but I had to drink it because anyway, I was looking for a wife. And when we discussed those issues, they were emotive issues because you can't talk about our food, about our delicacies. You cannot just, by disliking them, you are actually disliking me. So that's why I'm calling them external sources, because they are beyond you. You have nothing to do about them, but just because you were born in that family, you would differ and you'll have conflicts about such. So at home, when we go home or when we went home those days, my people try as much as possible to accommodate my wife by speaking Swahili. Some of them really struggle because they have never gone to school. You should come and listen to my local church when we go home, and everyone is trying to speak Swahili so that they can accommodate her. We actually prefer not going to church many times because of the harassment that I see. But you notice when they want to say something that they think she shouldn't hear, they speak to me in vernacular, and vice versa. When I go to their home, when they want to say something that they think I shouldn't hear, they will speak in vernacular. And that already causes some level of conflict. But you see, you are not the problem. I can't be held responsible for being a Kamba. I didn't apply. But because you're coming from different backgrounds, you will have those challenges. When I took issue with the fact that she took long to tell her parents that she had finally found a suitable partner, I felt like she was not serious about the relationship. Only now later to realize we were coming from totally different backgrounds. For me, I didn't have parents. I don't have parents. By the time we are meeting, I had only, my mom was alive, but she didn't object to anything that I told her. She knew I knew far much better in terms of what I needed for my life. So I told her as early at the earliest opportunity. And so I expected that also happened from her side. But her parents, it's a small family. All of them are graduates. They are enlightened. The father spent a number of years in the US. It's a modern family. For me, I am the most modern person in the entire village. And so I am coming with my background and I'm thinking, why are you not telling people that you have a boyfriend? But I realized it was not as easy as I had thought. There are only 3 siblings. We are 20. So when we get home, by the time you're getting to greet all my brothers, you need like 3 days. When we arrive at our home, we have arrived. And so all those things play. I grew in lack. She grew in plenty. So how we look at resources is totally different because of those fundamental differences. So these are things that you may assume them, but they actually influence how we react to issues. They influence how we respond to the conflicts that we experience. If, for example, you have seen your parents fighting or betraying each other, you are likely to always look at your boyfriend or your girlfriend in suspicion. if you've seen your parents cheating on each other, for example, at the earliest opportunity, you will begin saying, yeah, this is familiar. You are now beginning to cheat. Just because your phone went off and you are not able to charge it, you already can see the cues to cheating because you've grown in a family where there was cheating. So all these things will influence, or they will be sources of the conflicts that we experience. And before I get into, one of the person who wrote a long paragraph on these issues, they said that the excesses in our personality traits means that we will conflict. Human desire to be in control means we'll be in conflict if we see any signs of this being threatened. As sinners who continue to work out our salvation with fear and trembling, the sin in us leads us to conflict. Failure of our spouse to meet our expectations on behavior, finances, career and development can lead us into conflict. And the expectations are often shaped by friends, society, media, family background, and personal goals. And I think this was a summary of what we had said. So there could be so many other conflicts. And I want to give you now an opportunity to also contribute to this discussion. What are some of the sources of conflicts that you have experienced so far, or you have seen from your friends experiencing? Let's hear. And here I'm going to call names, except if you volunteer on time. Yeah. Let's hear. Now you can give them the opportunity to unmute themselves so that they can respond, or you can also key in on the chat. What are some of the conflicts that you have, or sources of the conflicts? Differences between men and women? Yes, we look at things differently. Men, and these days sometimes it's not necessarily because it's a men's thing. Sometimes it's just that you would be the man, but you have behavior or you have preferences similar to the women, and the vice versa. But yes, the differences between men and women. Men, for example, don't like details. Women like details. So you have come from Acacia, and your girlfriend wants to know the number of songs that were sung in that Acacia and who was leading each song. For the man, all that they know is that they were in Acacia and they sang. And that can actually be a source of great conflicts. Any other? Let me see whether there's anyone I know who is logged in here. Anyone who has a difference in priorities? Thank you, Mercy Wamuti. Yeah. Sometimes your priorities, the list of priorities is inverted. Shansi says financial aspects, how you spend your money. Dressing code, that for you, you think you are dressed fully or you are dressed nicely, only to arrive and you are told, what happened? Unspoken expectations, assumption. Thank you, Akinyi. Yeah, we talked about that. The issue of time conscious, past traumas. Yeah, Derek, we've talked about past traumas, emotional aspect, grace. Yeah. So yeah, so we will experience conflicts. Conflicts will be there, whether they are going to be externally influenced or internally influenced, but we are going to experience them. So the question is, what do we do with those conflicts when we experience them? Do we break our relationships because of the conflicts that we experience? Do we do we solve the conflicts? What do we do with those conflicts? And Opondo, yes, doctrinal differences, health status difference, yeah. So what the list, because you can see the list is endless. It means that anything actually can cause a conflict in a relationship. Finding fundamental information by yourself, you know, she has never told you that she has had an issue. And then as you scroll, their phone or somehow in some way you get to know fundamental information about them or about yourself. So this tells you that the list is endless. Anything can cause conflict. Anything. Even the way you sneeze. When we got married, one of the things, because of what I explained, growing in lack and her growing in plenty, we would start eating. In the next 2 or 3 minutes, I am done with my food. And she adjusted and she would wonder, what's the problem? Where are you running to? Where are you rushing to? But you see, now when you are growing up, food was scarce. So your speed saved you, because all of us, the siblings, we would be eating from a common place. So it is your speed that saved you. And so I come with this in my marriage. And she serves food and she's wondering, so who are you competing with? Why are you eating so fast? And for me, I have never known that I eat very fast. Then I was not a good speaker. I didn't know how to pronounce many words. And sometimes she would just keep on correcting me, and you're feeling, well, this is tough. So we would be walking and would conflict on which matatu to take. So anything would cause conflict. So the issue is that we have to learn how to solve conflicts. And so the other half of my presentation is going to be helping us to know how to deal with conflicts. So the first issue that I want to present to us is the issue of attitude. What kind of attitude do you come with? Do you believe that the conflict that you have can be solved? That is the starting point. If you do not believe it can be solved, or if you're not willing to solve it, then no matter what you do, that conflict can never be solved. So you've been conflicting about how to spend money. For you, you have decided, I know better on how to spend my money. I am the one who works. You're not the one who works. Every time I wake up to go work and get my own money. And so you have no business in addressing me or helping me know how to spend my money. That attitude, no matter what you do, you can never solve that issue of money, because you've already decided that it's not a conflict that I want to solve. So that is the starting point, the attitude. So you need to admit the problem, admit that there's a problem. We may see the problem differently. In terms of intensity, we may think that this is not a serious problem, or the other person may think this is a serious problem. But at least you need to appreciate that there's a problem and admit that, yes, this is a problem that needs to be solved. Then empathize, appreciate the other person is hurt. For those of us who like logic, sometimes we hurt people very much because we do not want to get into their shoes to know what they're experiencing. That your girlfriend is hurting because your phone keeps on vibrating and it is causing embarrassment. And for you, you don't see how that is an embarrassment. You need to get yourself into her shoes to actually know what she could be feeling and empathize with her. Because if you do not do that, you remain with your logic, you'll not be able to feel what she's feeling, and therefore you get it difficult to solve that problem. Then, are you willing to solve the problem? That's a question that I asked. And are you ready to listen? So without the correct attitude towards reconciliation, you are not likely to solve whatever problem that you're experiencing. But the second issue is perseverance. Keep it calm. Listen, and then listen again. And whenever it is possible, defer your words and the personal attacks. You know, the same way you feel very nice about love. You know, those days when you are so refreshed, you are thanking God that God took time to create that person. You can't imagine your life without them. It is the same way when you have conflicted. The same level of intensity also comes in terms of anger. So when you are in that situation, you just want to keep it calm. One of the major lessons that I have learned in my life is that I can never take back my words. Whatever I say, it has left my mouth and I can never take them back. And I have known that I can never be held accountable for words that I never said. So if you have been struggling with the way they breathe, when you walk a few kilometers, you feel like they breathe too hard, or there's a particular part of their body that, even though you like them, you wish it could be different. Then when you have conflicted, at that point, you pull that card. You're saying, you know, no wonder you don't have good hair. No one can be thinking the way you are thinking and they have good hair. Or you have big ears, but you never listen. I'm telling you, you feel the satisfaction of revenge at that particular point, but you can never withdraw those words. Every time you are in a conflict, they will always remember that the things you said about their ears, the things you said about their hair, the things you said about their nose. So be cautious of the things that you say, because you can never take backwards. You need to persevere. Sometimes just control your anger. Find a way of managing your anger. For me, I prefer keeping quiet, because sometimes I know the things that are going on in my mind. If I say them, they will hurt you, and I have no way of getting back those words. And sometimes I converse in my head, and when I have cooled down, I realize, what if I said those words? They would have definitely hurt my spouse. So controlling your anger and just persevering as much as you can. But number 3, I would advise that you always seek internal solution first. Matthew chapter 18, verses 15 to 20 gives us a criteria on how to solve conflicts. If you have an issue with someone, talk with them first. Do not go out bashing them. Talk with them. If you're not able to agree, then you can seek external help. So don't be the kind of a person when your boyfriend has not replied your text for a day, you are going all over, you're texting, you're actually putting a WhatsApp status. What do you do when your boyfriend does not text you for a day? And then you get all manner of responses. As much as possible, try to get internal solutions, because that helps you to build a mechanism. When you get married, you use that mechanism to solve your conflicts. Do not be so quick into going out to seeking help, because that means that you deny yourself an opportunity to build muscles. One of the people that we had a discussion after they responded to my question, I told them that I don't like remembering our conflicts, because our 5 years were full of conflicts. We were dealing with a conflict after the other. Every day there's a conflict. Today you did do this. Tomorrow you did not do this. You did this. And I don't like remembering that because it was just a conflict after the other. But do you know, since we got married, after we had, of course, major conflict again in our first 2-3 years of our marriage. But I can tell you, in the last 5 years, we've not had any groundbreaking conflict. And I think we developed a mechanism of dealing with our conflicts those days. We rarely get to seeking external help. One of the major conflicts that we had was on a week of our wedding. We conflicted to the extent that we did our what is it usually called? The rehearsals. The rehearsals were on Wednesday. We did them when we were not talking to each other. I mean, it was major that we had to meet on that Friday, and we talked about it. We forgave each other, and we met that Saturday morning happy, because I don't think it would have worked if that Friday we had not dealt with that issue. And I think it was because we had taken time to learn how to solve our conflicts. When we were, I think in our first or second year of courting, we had a conflict that dragged for like over a week, and we were not solving. You know, when we start talking, we go around the same issue. You did this, yeah, you did this, and then we go in circles. And one night we talked for 8 hours continuously. Those days we used to use Orange. Orange used to have, I think, 50 bob for all 12 hours or something. We talked on phone for 8 good hours. So at 5 a.m. I thought, why are we not solving this issue? And I think God just helped us. And we said, I'm the one who initiated the conversation and said that I think looks like we are not getting a solution. And we said we were going to count on the count of 1 to 3, we were going to forgive each other and forget about that conflict. And believe you me, it worked like magic. I counted 1, 2, 3, and I said, it's over. And I can't even remember what the conflict was all about. We never came back to that conflict, but we had been trying to talk about it for a whole week. We talked about it for a whole night. We were not resolving it. And we just decided, okay, let's forgive one another. And we did that. So that Friday before our wedding, it was not difficult to solve our issue because we had developed mechanism to do that. But you may not always be able to solve your conflict. And there's a time when it comes and you need to seek help. You need someone to help you deal with that issue. And when that happens, you need to pick a trusted helper. Don't just pick another random person. You need to pick someone, first of all, someone who has the interest in you. Don't pick your crush. Now your crush can never help you with your challenge because you see they are interested in you. They may just find a way of making the conflict worse and therefore not end up dealing with that particular conflict. So get someone, a person of high authority, someone both of you believe in, someone both of you can respect, and that person should facilitate you to talk, not giving you solutions. Their work should be able to help you to talk and to find solutions on what you are experiencing. But finally, is that you must learn how to sacrifice. If you are not willing to compromise, if you're not willing to shift your stand, then do not get into a relationship. The book of Philippians, chapter 2, verse 3 to 5, the Bible says that do not do anything out of self-ambition. Just a minute. Sorry, it's someone who called, and I thought that there could be an emergency. So if you are not willing to sacrifice, as I was saying, don't get into this relationship, because the Bible tells us not to do anything out of selfish ambition. The Bible calls us to consider others better than ourselves. Scripture calls us to consider others better than ourselves. And where else can you practice that if not in a love relationship? When do you think you are better than your boyfriend? When do you think you are better than your girlfriend? If you actually took the posture that my girlfriend or my fiancé or my fiancée is better than I am, you are likely to listen to them. But the moment you feel you are the one who knows it, and you know it and you know it, and there is nothing that can change it, there is going to be a problem. So learn how to sacrifice. I want to end by proposing a few practical steps that we can employ in case you find yourself in such a situation. And all these steps that I have shared with you, all the practical solutions that I'm sharing, they are based on scripture. They are biblical principles that anyone can apply. So number one, if you find that you've had a conflict that is taking so long, decide some time and place a venue for that discussion. That means you are taking the issue seriously and you're stopping everything else to go to attend to that particular issue. Then list the possible solutions in that particular problem. Try one of those solutions, and you need to ask yourself, what exactly is the issue that you're dealing with? Then identify each party's contribution to that issue and agree on each party's responsibility and reward for success. So if you realize that you've talked on phone, you've chatted, it's not working, just agree. We are going to meet at Seagull on Sunday at 4 p.m. and ask yourself, what exactly is the issue? Sometimes you just need to try to understand what your contribution is in that particular issue. Because sometimes you're going around the issue. You are not dealing with the issue, but you're dealing with the issues around the issue. So try to find out what is the issue. It could be that you've been arguing about giving each other time. You feel like you do not consider me important. Every time we plan for a meetup, you are not available. And so I think you're not valuing me. And that becomes a problem. It could be that the person is it's not an issue of valuing you. It could be that actually the person is not able to find time. They are trying all that they can't make ends meet and you're not seeing it. Or it could actually be true that this person is not valuing you. But in every conflict, there's usually a contribution from both sides. Even if I am the one who initiated the current problem, it is usually that there's something I am contributing for us to find ourselves in the situations that we are in. So identify what your contribution is. What is my contribution to this particular issue? Because there will always be your contribution. Never think that you're the saint, in that the fact that you found out, or the fact that your friend or your fiancé has not been returning your calls, and you think she is the problem because she's not returning your calls. It could be that you actually never used to pay attention to what she was telling you, and so she doesn't value you any longer. So find out and identify what is my contribution. Then try to list down all the possible solutions. Pick one of the solutions and try it, and agree on what each person is going to do, the responsibility for each one of you and in each party, and reward when you feel you are doing very well. So of course you need to evaluate and see how you are responding to that, to what you had agreed. So these principles, they are anchored on forgiveness. There's no, the Bible is so clear about the issue of forgiveness. We must forgive so that you can be forgiven. Even in the Lord's Prayer, you know that. Seek peace. Mark chapter 9, verse 50 encourages us to seek peace with one another, anchored on love. When you read the entire Bible, the story of love, I don't need to emphasize. I can't exhaust the Bible verses that talk about love, why you need to love one another and to apply love. The issue of humility, give preference to the other person, esteem others as better than yourselves, as we have seen. Care for the other person. Show tolerance towards one another, as we have already discovered. And finally, be tolerant and be compassionate in whatever you do. So what we have discussed so far is that conflicts will always be with us. We cannot avoid conflicts, and they will arise from our internal issues or external issues. But then we have to deal with conflicts because they also give us an opportunity to know how to work with each other. And there are principles, there are practical steps that I have given, but these principles of forgiveness, seeking peace with each other, don't just be happy because you are not talking to each other or you're feeling, wacha sikie hivyo. Apply love, humility, considering the other person better than you are, care, tolerance, and compassion. So I want to end at this point, and before I receive your questions, I want to present a question of discussion. In light of all that we have discussed, do you think a conflict or conflicts should be a red flag to end a relationship? What do you think? Are they conflicts? Is it a red flag to end a relationship? What do you think? I forgot to ask my team to do a poll for me. I had wanted us to do a poll for just no and yes. But what do you think? We can just type yes and no. Do you think conflict is a red flag to end a relationship? I want to hear your opinion before I give my response. No, nope, nope, no, no, no. I think a negative attitude towards conflict resolution is a red flag rather than conflict itself. Thank you, Stephen, for that. Depends. Okay, when you say depends, you can qualify your depending, like what Stephen has done. No, yes, yes it is. Shows difference in values and beliefs. Yes. Depending on conflict at hand. No, but depends on the issue at hand. Yes, if it persists. It depends on the conflict, and if there's any chance of change or not. Depends on the nature of frequency of that particular conflict. No, it should not, unless conflicts are ever resorting to the things such as physical harm. Depends on the conflict. Non-negotiable, persistent conflicts with no platform of getting solution for us to get one. Thank you. I think those are great responses, and I don't think I would say anything different. But because we have said that it's possible to solve conflicts and they will be there, it means conflicts should not be a reason for you to break up a relationship. Except, now these are the qualifiers, except if you think that this conflict involves a non-negotiable. If someone has been cheating on you and they have refused to change, I think getting into marriage with such a person, you should not blame the community or the society for the problems that you would take yourself into such. But most of these conflicts, they can be solved. Most of these conflicts just need forgiveness. And if you want to be forgiven, you should also be willing to forgive yourself. Because if you do not forgive, then you should also not expect to be forgiven. So I pray that as you go through your courtship season, think about your attitude towards conflict resolution. Think about your contribution in those conflicts and try some of the steps that I have outlined that could help you to deal with the conflicts that you are dealing with. So I would stop at this point and spare the remaining minutes for any questions that you could be having around the subject of discussion tonight.
Okay, thank you so much, PK. A great session there. Learning quite much. We can get questions for those of us having questions. Yeah, let's just share them on the chat. Yeah, and I think one thing that has stood out for me as we wait for the questions here, it's the bit on listening. I think though you had indicated like listen, then listen. Yeah, and sometimes it's just because of miscommunications here and there. Yeah, and I also realized that some of these things are really like they apply not only in relationships, but also like not only in romantic relationships, but in other relations that we have. Yeah, now that relationships, like in any relationship, there will be conflicts. Yeah, that has been a great session for me. How long should silence be in a relationship in the event there is a conflict? That's the first question.
Okay, let's deal with the questions as they come. Silence is not good, although sometimes it might be necessary. Sometimes there's silence that is agreed upon, and sometimes it is silence because you don't have the energies to deal with that particular conflict. So how long? I may not be able to prescribe, but I would suggest if you're in a love relationship, try to talk daily, unless it's absolutely impossible. Talking daily means that there are times you talk even if you do not want to talk. Love is beyond just the feelings. Falling in love is, it usually is in stages. There's a stage where you see each other and you feel goosebumps. When you look at that particular person, your heart skips your left ventricle refuses to contract. And you get into that relationship, then you begin realizing, Kupe is not what I was really seeing. Kupe, you also struggle with these things. Up there, if that person is in praise and worship, you've been looking at them and they look like they also behave the way they sing. And then you realize singing is different from relating. So then you begin experiencing realities of life. So at that point, sometimes you get into the plateau stage where you're not feeling anything. But that does not mean that you do not love that person, because the fact that you felt something about that person at the beginning, it means there's something. It is not from nowhere. It's just that now as you get to familiarize yourself with each other, you begin getting the familiarity issues affecting you and all that. So even when you're not feeling those pimples, you need to talk. because you care. You need to know whether that person has arrived home if they were going somewhere. Not because you are really feeling what the feelings of liking that you have, but just finding out whether that person has arrived, even if you are not agreeing on something. It's a show of care that is what demonstrates love. Just read the book of 1 Corinthians and just see the definition of love there and see whether you're able to apply those things in your love. And check whether there is anything about feelings in description of love. You realize that there's nothing about feelings. It's not keeping a record of wrongs. It is considering the other person better. So silence is not good because it will harm your relationship. Because that silence means that you are filling in with anything else. You are what you're considering as unless you have agreed that you want to take a break so that you can reflect, then that is different. Because some people, they go in that silence and they break up in their hearts and they leave the other person without that information. So unless it's a silence that is agreed upon, I think then you don't need to be silent. Talk to each other on a daily basis if it's possible. What happens? Okay, I can see now many questions have come up thick and furious. How did you manage the background issues? But the question should be, how are you managing? Because you can never complete that management. It's you discover something new every other day. You get children and you realize there's a way that they treat grandchildren, which is not the way I think they should. And that becomes a new, fresh conflict because it's something new. It's been the attitude. First of all, knowing that my in-laws, for example, that is all they know. They do not want to hurt me. They have the best interest in me. And so I wanted to fast track my relationship with my in-laws, but I realized it's going to be a long journey. So it's a long journey, but the attitude, I think, is what has helped me so that whatever new issue that comes, I have the willingness to engage it and to know what to do next. What happens when one person wants to involve a third party in the matter, but one party doesn't want to? That's very difficult, Akinyi. It means that already is a conflict in itself. And that is what needs to be solved first before you get into the other conflicts. I think sometimes it's usually because there's a level of selfishness by one party, especially the one who is refusing, or the one who is calling for a third party is also doing that too soon before giving it a chance. So if the person doesn't want to be engaged in solving that problem, and they do not want a third party, I think there you have to think through whether that's a relationship that you want to be in. Because if the person is not willing to solve the conflict and doesn't want any help in solving that conflict, then how are you going to deal with that conflict? And at this point, I need to mention that, and I need to say this carefully, but I always say you'd rather not get into a relationship than get into a relationship just to break it. That is stage one. But level two, I say you would rather break a relationship than get married into a relationship that you know that it's not working, or get into a relationship that is going to lead in separation and divorce. So deal with the issues at the lowest level you can. One, by not getting into a relationship that you think you shouldn't get into. But secondly, getting the courage to break a relationship that you think it's not going to go very far. So if you can't solve your conflicts when you're dating, you are not likely to solve them when you get married. And so solve those issues. When you get married, some of the issues that you see, they get magnified or they become bigger than you think. How do ambivert relate to an introvert, especially when the ambivert is one person who likes word of affirmation most of the time, but the other person is an extreme introvert? He or she talks less. Wow. I think I would ask anyone who has a response to Phoebe to type it. But I do believe by the fact that you are attracted to that person who speaks less, you must have been attracted in the first place. Because I don't think you just got into that relationship where you realize, this guy talks less. Now what do I do? You must have seen them talking less in many platforms, and that is what attracted you to them. So I think when you begin having those issues of thinking it's personality issue, there is a different, they check out what the issue is. The issue may not be just personality. The issue may not be introversion or extroversion. Just check out to know what the issue exactly is. I am now moving faster because I have 10 minutes, and I'm sure you need some 2 minutes for announcements. Opondo is saying that is it rude to walk out of a heated argument to avoid uttering offensive words? Maybe walking out might not be the best way to, I don't know what walking out here means, but if it means literal walking out, I think it could be rude. I think you can just ask and say that I think this discussion is not going far, or I don't like the way it is going. I request that we stop it at that and maybe revisit later. Walking away from people is always not the best thing. It's rude. So you don't have to walk away. Just need to, you can agree and say that I don't think we are going anywhere with this argument or this debate. So can we revisit it so that you're agreeing to have a pause on it other than just walking away from it? What do you do to get your wife's parents to accept you given your background? Abdul, looks like we are sharing something in common because you're asking similar questions. Let me tell you, when you decide to get married to a different ethnic group, or if you come from a poor background and you decide to marry from a rich background, just be prepared for some of the difficult situations that you might encounter. So it was quite a challenge. I think I proved myself over time. One of the things that shocked them is one of the Christmas, I think a year after we got married, we went home to their home for Christmas holiday. That was one of the greatest things that I think paved way for me to begin getting accepted in that family. Because they realized, okay, this guy is not that bad, that the fact that he has forfeited going to their home and they've come with their daughter, I think that gave some level of confidence. But over time, they have seen me being responsible. They have seen the way I treat the daughter, the way I talk to them, the way I treat my children. So it's been over time to the point that now I am an authority in that family. They want to hear my opinion when they want to do something. And it's been over time. I wanted it to be so fast, but I realized it was not going to work that way. So sometimes give it time. Even if you get rejected by the entire family, just give it time. Do your best. Don't fake anything. Be yourself. But give it time. Sometimes you may just find that they will like you over time. You know, when two people meet from different backgrounds, it's not easy just to believe someone from the word go. But as time goes by, you may realize that you're gaining acceptance. So let me read in the next 3 minutes. Being late could be a source of conflict, Mokonono is saying. But what do you say about perennial latecomer? Because of love, you want to tolerate and adapt to the situation. If such happens, does it mean you have been defeated to manage a conflict? I don't think so, because you see the issue of if someone is perpetual latecomer, is that the case to everything else? If that is the case to everything else, you need to help your partner to improve on that area, because it will affect them not only in your relationship, but in everything else. But if they are always coming late for your events or for whatever you do, investigate whether the person is interested in you or whether they really like you, and find out what steps you need to take after that. What are some of the things you think should be a deal breaker in courtship when conflict can't be resolved? What are some of the things you think could be deal breaker in courtship when a conflict can be resolved? I would request Akinyi you rephrase the question so that what do you mean by deal breaker, so that I can be able to answer it with more understanding. Stella, how do you handle a partner who has had real background issues and has never believed in love? In most cases, it brings issues because he has never experienced love between his parents. Yeah, that is now what we are talking about. Sometimes you may just want to meet now. This is a place where you seek counsel. Just getting people, you can even go to a counselor because that person is dealing with deep issues that are not necessarily about your relationship. And those issues will always resurface. There are many people whose relationships are being challenged because of the trauma that they have passed through. And these days, because the issue of mental health is no longer stigmatized, just get to see a counselor. Or even if it's not a professional counselor, seek someone who can help you go through some of these things to at least discover the issues that you are experiencing, because those things will always resurface. They will even affect the way you parent. They will affect the way you deal with other people. So seek help. This is where I outrightly say that you need to seek external help. As a girlfriend, you might not be the person to help them, but they may need some help, not because of your love, but as a person to deal with those issues. Have you been in a situation where your wife thinks a family can help with money and you don't want them to be involved? Have you been in a situation where your wife thinks a family can help with money and you don't want them to be involved? I don't know whether this question is whether the family needs to help you or the wife needs to help the people. Let me ask from both cases. When we first got married, each person wanted to, of course, help their people. And we had agreed on how we deal with that. But because, when we come together, those issues, trust is gained over time. There are times I secretly send money to my family. There are times she secretly also send money to our family. But as time went by, we realized, this is not, this is just childishness. And I think we had to just go through that. So over time, now we don't have those troubles. Sometimes I'm the one who sends money to my in-laws. And they now realized if they needed money, whether they're asking my wife, their daughter, or they're asking me, it's not indifferent. It's going to be discussed, and the money is going to be sent based on what we agree as a family. But we've not had an opportunity where we needed to be helped by the families, and we had challenges with that. Yeah. So I think this is going to be now the last one. How do you handle a partner whom you initially had conflict with and insisted on breakup despite your persuasion to solve your differences? You finally broke up, but several months later, close to a year, he is back and requesting to be forgiven. While I feel he is after selfish gain, not generally asking for forgiveness, kindly advise. Forgiveness comes from the Lord. You just need to forgive them. The issue of whether they want to come back to you, that's a question that you have to evaluate after seeing whether he has changed or you still feel the same for them. But in terms of forgiveness, forgive them, because it's a command from God that we need to forgive others. But the issue of whether he's asking to come back into that relationship, you must look at it carefully. I know there are many people who have broken relationships, come back, broken them again, come back, broken, and others gotten married after all those breakups. So I can't say whether you need to give the person a chance or not, but you must evaluate. So let me stop at that point because our time is up, and say a big thank you for your participation and being part of this conversation. May God bless you so much. May He bless your relationships and help you, those who are planning to get married soon. May He provide all the resources that you need and that you may have a great marriage thereafter. God bless you.
Okay, thank you so much, PK. We have really learned a lot. Yeah, and also for the questions, thank you for the active participation in this. Yeah, and we are going to have one session purely dedicated to questions towards the end of this series. But details about that will continue to stream in. Yeah, so we started with the 100 bob challenge, 100 bob airtime challenge. Unfortunately, there isn't anyone who accurately gave what I was looking for and to the speed which we wanted. Yeah, but then the people who came close to what I was looking for, it's Joseph Odhiambo and Grace Kinyo. Yeah, so now that like they didn't get accurately, so they just divide. Yeah, so the two of them, yeah, we get 50 bob airtime each. Yeah, and next time maybe the challenge will be different, maybe on the lessons. Yeah, and maybe with more goodies, maybe. Yeah, but my prayer is that we are being edified by this. Yeah, and getting to apply these sessions. I think one of the things which stood out quite much while we were starting is when really when we were talking about the doctrine, which you have, it's really what you are convicted and what you practice, and not necessarily just what you know and never put into practice. And therefore, yeah, as we get to know this, yeah, let's be convicted of these truths and yeah, live by them. Yeah, so I want to give a shout out to Richard, yeah, and the other organizers of this meeting. Yeah, but then I'll have Richard conclude for us with some final remarks. Yeah, so for Grace and Joseph, I'll drop the contact to contact here on the chat, and then we'll get in touch after the meeting. Thank you. You're welcome, Richard.
Thank you, Peter, for leading us well. And also, thank you, Peter Kibel, for such a wonderful session. We really bless the Lord. I think a number of those in relationships really go through these things over and over again. But I really love the way Peter Kimeu has put it out there for us. And I pray that he may continue to be edified. Peter Kimeu, thank you so much. I know it was on a short notice, but you have put time just to be with us, and we really thank God for that. Yeah, may the Lord really bless you as you continue to address these issues that the young people go through. Maybe Peter Kimeu, for those who might want to be asking more questions, I don't know whether you can give them an email or a contact, because I know there are some of the questions that have been put here seem to be very heavy. Yeah, I think Peter Kimeu will respond to that as you pray and conclude the meeting for us. But for our next session, to all of you, it's going to be very interesting. We're going to be talking about matters sexual. It should be making us really look forward to it, even as you do so. Otherwise, God bless you so much. We can take it back to Peter Kimeu to pray for us and conclude this meeting for us.
Okay, thank you. I have posted my contacts there. I prefer WhatsApp because I can respond when I am able to. So if you need any follow-up conversation, you can WhatsApp me on that number. So let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you because you're good, you're great God, and there is no one like you. Thank you for giving us an opportunity to talk about conflicts and conflict resolution in courtship. I pray for these young men and women that you may hold them their hands, you may guide them in everything they do, in their relationships, that they may honor you, and that they may grow and learn how to deal with their conflicts that they experience. You are good God, and I know you will help them. Some of them might be in wrong relationships, and they just need the courage to break up. Others could be at the point of making their choices. I pray that you will guide them. But everyone who is preparing for a marriage and wedding, I pray that you may supply all that they need and that you guide them. And may you bless the church for this great initiative, and may your hand be upon all of them. We pray this, trusting and believing in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.